afternoon on Friday the 4th of July, Independence Day. I'm just taking you round a city centre church in Norwich called John the Baptist Timberhill. This is very, very high Anglicanism at its best. It's incredibly high. I recall a former Roman Catholic bishop of East Anglia telling the then Bishop of Norwich that they made us, the Roman Catholics, look like evangelicals, which is something, which is saying something. As you can see, a statue of the Virgin Mary there, or in here she would be the Blessed Virgin Mary, and there's a statue of, I assume, is Joseph, and here, through here, is the Lady Chapel, and that is supposed to be, just bring it in for you, that is supposed to be the statue, a copy of the statue of Our Lady of Walsingham. And yes, Stations of the Cross on the wall, 14 of them, where usually you would get 12, here it's 14. And up here is Thomas Grimwood and his wife Mary. I shall just read to you from a guide. Now, according to Bloomfield, the church was built by Waldowen, the priest, who gave it to Norwich Benedictine Priory soon after that monastery's foundation. And that would suggest a post-conquest date of origin circa 1070. Now, this present church was begun in 1420, which replaced a building of 1303. And the style is transitional, decorated to perpendicular of Henry V's reign, although the east window, as you can see, is of the earlier decorated style with double reticulated tracery, whatever that means. And the fabric of this church was repaired and restored in 1874, 78 and 89, when most of the stone window frames were renewed and the sedilia and piscina inside restored. And the nave was still thatched up to 1828. Pardon me for the motorcycle. So, you'll notice that this church has no tower, because it collapsed in 1784. It was a result of a gale, and the 5 ring of bells was sold to defray repair costs to the West End. And you could still see tower foundations visible in 1890. And it's now an 18th century bellcot of wood set on the west nave gable, was replaced by the present stone one in the 19th century. And here we have a statue. Is it I don't know who that could be. So the exterior, the south porch which we came through, is 15th century. It's got a parvis chamber above. Now what does that mean? A parvis chamber is where a visiting priest would stay overnight. So, recent excavations revealed an area of Tudor churchyard on the north side. And the present churchyard walls date from 1882. So, let's look at the interior. Now, it followed, the present interior is much to the 19th century Catholic renewal, which enriched the Church of England following in the wake of the Oxford movement. Father Ram, when he arrived here in 1871, found the church in a sorry state and as a consequence of 16th century iconoclasm, the 17th century civil war, and the 18th century neglect. The tower collapsed 80 years before. Chancel arch and porch were shored up. The roof leaked. The Georgian preaching hall interior had wormy box pews, a west gallery, and decalogue boards at the east end. Father Ram recreated a devotional medieval interior suited to Catholic Anglican worship, and he alarmed the then Protestant bishop. And in his zeal, it is reported he carved one panel of this pulpit himself. And the font, with its classical rim ornament, it probably dates from the 18th century. A replacement made because of the fall of the West Tower. Its plain bowl is compensated by an ornate steeple cover made in 1929 by John Howard of Cattle Market Street here in Norwich. Above the north doorway, that there is an oil painting of a youthful John the Baptist, school of Caravaggio, which came from another St. John's church in Norwich, St. John's Sepulchre. And another painting above the south entrance, this one here, shows the child St. John with a lamb in the style of Murillo. It's not very clear. It's not very clear. It has to be seen in the right light. And that was once an altarpiece in the North Chapel dedicated to St. John, where there is now a statue of the saint, as you can see. The 19th century Russian icon of the baptism of Christ now hangs on the north chancel Parclose screen. Now, let's go to the north side of the chancel. I'm not really sure where that is. Maybe there. Maybe that picture there. So, stained glass in a south nave window depicts, it's the only stained glass in this church, depicts the Virgin and Child, Mater Salvatoris, by Martin Travers, which was painted in 1910. And that window was translated from the neighbouring All Saints Church in 1976. I don't know whether you can see the tower. You won't be able to see the tower, it's too small. Right. Above the main panel in the tracery lights, up there, are two 15th century musician angels, and they were originally in St. Peter Parmentigate Church and were put here to commemorate the reordering of St. John's in 1980, when St. Peter's was declared redundant. That's off King Street. And the almost life-size statue of the Virgin by the in the south chancel is also by Travers, life-size statue of the Virgin. That's Joseph. This is the, what's the name? Stained glass windows of the 1920s fills the east window of the Lady Chapel, as you can see. Well, and now believed to be by Archibald J. Davis of London, the subject is the Ascension. And there is supposed to be, as you can see, fabulous reredos. An oil painting hanging on the North Chancel Pier. Is that it? It's supposed to be the mocking. That is the mocking of Christ, but after Van Dyck. This organ, the organ was brought from St John's Church in Lowestoft in 1880. It was last rebuilt in 94, and the carved musicians on the organ case crowned by a trumpeting angel. The rood beam in 1890, the rood beam with crucifix and the attendant figures was installed by Father Ram, who again upset the bishop. It was carved in Obramagau in Germany, and the figures were later coloured by a brother Maynard of Cowley. And by 1980 they had become dull and faded and were repainted and repaired by Paul Jeffreys when the church was reordered. And a rood screen below a 19th century was removed to open up the sanctuary area. The ornate winged reredos that was made in southern Germany and was installed in 1911. The main figures left to right are St John the Baptist, the patron of the church, St Felix, the Bishop and Apostle of East Anglia, the centre, the Virgin and Child with Angels, St Edward the Confessor, and St Martin of Tours. Above all, Christ reigns from a vesica, which was repainted by an Irene Ogden, who also coloured the Stations of the Cross in the nave during the ordinary. Right. Let's see. Northwest corner of the nave. Northwest. That is supposed to be St Peter, which came from Pimentergate Church when it closed. And the inscription on the wall commemorates John Foster, who was an Elizabethan benefactor. So, I'll now take you outside. As you can see, we are now at the west end of the church, where the tower would have stood. And as you can see, it's rather difficult to get pictures here. This is very much in the centre of Norwich. As you can see, the Castle Mall of 1993 is ahead, and there we are. This is the Timberhill area, St John the Baptist, Timberhill. It's simply the name of the area, like St Peter Mancroft, St Peter's in the Magna Crofter open field, or St George Tombland, St George's in the empty space. And there is other ones like George Cole Gate. St George's in Colgate Street, in the street called Colgate. Gutter, meaning the word street, coming from the old Norse word for street, gutter. So there we are. And through the trees, here is the and as you can see, there was looks like an old doorway, and here on the wall near this stone lieth the remains of William, first son, I think, of John and Alice Harvey of this parish, 4th of August 1815. And as you can see, the wall pack in there, and this is an incredibly difficult church to photograph because you can't really see it on the north side. So I shall just walk you round, and here we have a stone to Sarah Rackham and J.R. Coxage, Esquire, 22nd of April 1842. And here, I can't read that one. This one is to the memory of John Elliot, who died November 27th, 1737. And I thought there had been another one, but there isn't. So I will now take you out onto Timberhill and this fine church in central Norwich. I'm just moving the camera to landscape to take a photo, and as you can see, it's got quite an extensive churchyard, but there don't seem to be any gravestones. And what I'll do, I'm just thinking, did I take a photo of the font? I don't think I did. I will have to check. This is called Grout's Thoroughfare, and as you can see, they celebrate a parish mass, and it's called a mass at 11 o'clock. And the sign is old. You can see that the priest in charge was Christopher Wood. It's now someone else. I mean, I knew when I used to go in there when Christopher Wood's predecessor, sadly now passed on, was priest here. Now, I don't know whether you'll be able to see anything, but this is the north side of the churchyard. You see, I can't see much. Perhaps you the viewer, will be able to see what's down there, because I can't see a thing because of the light. So, Gramps Thoroughfare. It's open daily for private prayer and public worship, and sung mass 11 AM every Sunday. That's an old sign. It's probably been up since the congregation moved out of Peter Pimenta Gate and came into this church. Footway works. And here you can see it has its own Norwich art exhibition. It was largely just outside the Castle Bailey, and Timberhill was the open area to the south of the church where a timber market was held. So, I will now stop this video, and I'll go in and take further pictures. So cheerio for now.